we're seeing the best of Sam Darnold. At least we have for the last 3-4 weeks. Now, if he goes in the Super Bowl and wets his pants and has 4 turnovers, then we'll have another storyline.
As always, I am your party host, Joe Rivera, and along with me, as always, is one of the preeminent ball knowers of USA Today Sports, and that's Chris Boombaka. Boom. We also have a special guest today.
What's going on, Joe? Great to be here previewing Super Bowl 60, and the only way to do that is by bringing in the Hall of Famer himself, Jared Bell, our columnist, and we're excited to have JB here once again, and we're going to get into it all now.
Cool. Good to be here, guys.
JB, always a pleasure, man. And listen, we made it to Super Bowl 60, right? This season was a long, winding road. Boom and I have documented it the whole way right here on this very vodcast. Man, we got a lot to get into with the Patriots and the Seahawks facing off in just a few days. But first and foremost, we have to talk about the quarterbacks, right? Because we know a lot of things in the NFL revolve around who's under center. And JB, I want to ask you about Drake Maye. This is quite the ascent, second-year passer. He's joining an elite group of second-year passers to make it to the Super Bowl. He's hoping to win it. We'll see how that goes. But I just want your thoughts on Drake Maye and what you've seen from him. You've been covering this racket for a long, long time. What do you make of Drake Maye as a passer in this spot?
Yeah, Drake Maye, in my mind, is a gamer, or the kids might say a baller. Right. The stats don't always look pretty, and they really have his completion percentage, his downfield throw. So he definitely has the stats. But even when everything is not looking pretty on paper, it seems that he finds a way to get it done. Even if he has a pick or a fumble, and there's been that, he finds a way to get it done. And in the championship game at Denver, the way he got it done, as he has in other situations this year, is with his legs. And, there's an instinctiveness that has to come into playing quarterback, right? Number one, you have to have courage, right? If you know the hit is coming and you're about to get blasted, but you hang in there and you make the play. So he's got that ability, but so impressive in how he's able to get out of trouble and use his legs. And we saw it, against the Broncos. Josh Allen did some of the same stuff, except he had a whole lot more of a turnover issue. But in terms of escaping the pocket and using his legs to move the chains, Josh Allen did it a week earlier against Denver. And then here comes the kid, and he's able to do it sledding on the ice and the snow or whatever that footing was like. So big props to Drake Maye. And he seems like such a good guy. So hopefully he'll continue that throughout the rest of his long and illustrious career.
Yeah, it's incredible to see. And again, I live the gimmick here. As a Jets fan, to see them go from Brady to another guy who's probably going to terrorize the AFC East for years to come, right? And boom, we've talked about Drake Maye all throughout, maybe being an MVP candidate. What do you see from Drake Maye in this spot? What are you expecting from him?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's made the clutch throw all season. I keep coming back to the Houston game in which the booty touchdown over Derek Stingley Jr. I think that's totally emblematic of what he has to do come Super Bowl Sunday and what he's done really all season long. The thing about the Pats in these playoffs is that their conditions, I know we talked about it on Monday's show, Joe, but have been absolutely terrible. The wild card matchup against LA, there weren't really many elements, but it was really cold, really windy. Not a fun game to quarterback in. Go ask Justin Herbert. We saw what the sleet-snow mixture did to C.J. Stroud and the Texans. And we all saw what happened on Championship Sunday in Denver. Like JB was saying, for Maye to come out of that situation, or all those situations, and still find a way to play winning football, to me, says a lot about him, the player, the competitor. And I think that's why he and Mike Vrabel, the Patriots head coach, are such a kind of match made in heaven in that regard. Doesn't matter the circumstances, doesn't matter the stakes. Go out there, to borrow a popular Patriots phrase, do your job and get it done. And that's what he's done all season long.
JB, before we move on to the other quarterback in this matchup, I have to ask this question. What similarities, if any, do you see between Drake Maye and Tom Brady? Now, listen, I know he's It's Tom Brady's the GOAT. We know that. 7 Super Bowl rings, all that. I get it. But just from a player standpoint, maybe it's stylistically, I don't know what it is. What do you see if there are any similarities between the two?
Well, the thing to hang your hat on, obviously, and Boom just touched on it, is to have the poise in the moment. That's one thing. But the other thing that I sense, and I've only been to a couple of Patriots games this year, but just in kind of, processing all of this, it really seems like the confidence level of his teammates is way up there. And so you earn respect in this league, really at any position, but especially at quarterback, where you are inherently the leader. You've got to have your guys believing in you. And I think that's something that, Drake Maye has been able to establish, obviously, with, Mike Vrabel this year, taking his game to another level, and Josh McDaniels, oh, by the way. I think that's something that you it's an intangible that you can't overlook. And hey, let me digress to the Broncos for a second, who played the championship game without Bo Nix. But that was one of the things that was Bo Nix's special sauce, is that he performed in crunch time, and his teammates believed in him in crunch time. And so when you have that going, it's a bonus to whatever else you need to do and whatever else you bring to that job. But I really get the sense from the Patriots players that they believe in this guy, this young kid. I need to call him that a little bit more, just because next year or in ensuing years I won't be able to call him that. But yeah, this kid, he's the second youngest quarterback to start in the Super Bowl after like Dan Marino. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Must be nice.
Yeah,
Must
and
be nice.
one quick thing, Joe, on the whole leadership and tangible front, because I don't think we mentioned it on Monday, but he called, he audibled into that boot to end the game against Denver. That was just a straight run play, and he's the one who decided to keep it and make a break for the first down marker, and it sealed the game right then and there. I think that's a perfect encapsulation of what JB's saying.
All right, guys. So from one quarterback that steals and breaks the Jets' hearts to another quarterback that broke the Jets' hearts and still maybe has some of mine. You see, all roads lead to New York. That's just really what the common theme is. But we have to talk about Sam Darnold now. Listen, the rare 8th-year breakout. Well, really, he had a breakout in year 7. The rare 7th-year breakout, now playing in the Super Bowl, which, listen, his career didn't look like it was on life support for a while there. Made a couple jumps from Carolina to San Francisco, revitalized his career with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. JB, this has to be in Sam Darnold's spot. I want to pick your brain here. This has to be something you've never seen before, right? To see a quarterback go from maybe being an afterthought to now with the chance to win a Super Bowl.
I mean, I think there have been some cases. I mean, remember Jake Delhomme? He didn't win the Super Bowl, but he went to the Super Bowl with the Carolina Panthers. But I think one of the things that's pretty compelling about this matchup is the quarterback journeys to get here. So we're just talking about Drake Maye in his second year, and yeah, it is definitely tempting to say he's the next Tom Brady and all that, but that has to be proven over time, right? But he's in this position, he can perhaps do it. Well, on the other hand, Sam Darnold is with his 5th team. That is like crazy. And so it just kind of shows, and this has been the year, really definitely this year, and then even last year too, where you've had these guys who have been revitalized as, quarterbacks and their career journeys. And, Daniel Jones with the Colts, now he got hurt and it didn't work because he got injured. But I think Daniel Jones this season, especially when the Colts were like 8-2 or whatever they were, just really showed that, hey, he's another guy who's going to be able to do that. Baker Mayfield with Tampa, obviously it didn't work out at the end for them, but it's a different Baker Mayfield than, that left Cleveland. And so Sam Darnold, to your point, Joe, probably trumps all of these cases because it's been 5 teams. And, for the life of me, the Jets, who have had how many quarterbacks in the years since Sam Darnold left, would have done a lot better for themselves if they had just like invested in the supporting cast and build up the line and, build up all the things you want to do to have a quarterback, find success. And guess what? That's what they do in Seattle. And they've got the defense, they've got the special teams, they got receivers. They've got so many things around Sam Darnold that, hey, if you're ever going to, live up to your potential, so to speak, as a quarterback, that's the scenario that you want to be in. Not every quarterback can put the team on his back and carry him to the Super Bowl like a Josh Allen. Well, Josh Allen hadn't been in the Super Bowl. But anyway, you know my point. Josh Allen is that MVP guy, right? Well, not everybody's going to do it like that. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Sam Darnold, in this situation, we're seeing the best of Sam Darnold. At least we have for the last 3-4 weeks. Now, if he goes in the Super Bowl and wets his pants and has 4 turnovers, then we'll have another storyline.
What do you think, Boom? You think Sam Darnold's going to be seeing ghosts against the Patriots again?
It always comes back to the Jets on this show, man, I swear. But
unfortunately.
No, I don't think that he'll be seeing ghosts, Joe. I think that's probably a thing in the past for Sam. I think this whole Darnold journey that we're talking about here is a lesson in the modern quarterback, right? Teams move on from guys too quickly, and teams fail guys more than guys fail them. I think that's kind of been apparent over the last 8 to 10 years in this league, and Darnold is the perfect example of that. I think we're going to see a lot more Sam Darnold stories. Not just Sam Darnold himself, but a guy like Baker Mayfield, who's been on a lot of teams and now is in a Super Bowl. A guy like Daniel Jones can make a Super Bowl, and I think we would all kind of point back to this idea like we're talking about with Sam now, that guys are talented enough that as long as they get in the right situation, they could do great things. So I think that's what we saw with Darnold and the Seahawks here this year.
And just to throw another name out there, somebody I'm interested to see what happens moving forward is Mac Jones, right? And he was a Patriot, went to Jacksonville. Now he's been a backup and had to really kind of help the 49ers stay afloat when Brock Purdy got hurt. That's a guy that we could be talking about in the future and looking at his career journey and say, yeah, just kind of like Sam Darnold. So yes, it is definitely, Boom. I love the way you put that. It's kind of the way of the modern NFL quarterback in a lot of these cases.
All right, guys, so we talked a little bit about the quarterbacks, but now we have to talk about the weaknesses of these teams, right? We know there's no perfect team in football. Everybody has a weak spot. I will say, though, the Seahawks, as of right now, look like they're as close to a perfect football machine as you can possibly make. They have a running game. They have a quarterback. They're protecting Darnold right now. Their defense is looking pretty sharp, even in a few games that they had down the stretch of the season where they're giving up some points, but they make the plays when they have to, right? And that's a big part of winning this time of year. JB, when we talk about Seattle and Mike McDonald's team here, what do you think is their biggest weakness heading into the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. They are so balanced, and their general manager, John Schneider, has been one of the best in the league for many years. And guess what he did in the middle of the season? He went and addressed a weakness in getting Rashid Shaheed from the New Orleans Saints at the trade deadline. And what that did was that, gave them that extra weapon in the passing game. And, oh, by the way, a dynamic returner that we've seen come through and make some pivotal plays when they really needed it. But to your point, Joe, at the start of this question about them giving up points, it's tempting, at least for me, an old timer like me, to try to compare this defense for the Seattle Seahawks to the last one. And the last one was top to bottom, all levels, very, very dynamic, right? And then this one you look at and you know that they've got the front, they've got the linebackers. I'm still not totally sold on whether or not they're going to be able to keep the points down when they face a dynamic offense. Now, the Rams obviously put up a bunch of points in the championship game, put up a bunch of points when they played them a few weeks ago, et cetera, et cetera. So every offense is not like the Rams, who led the league in points scored. But when you talk about chinks in the armor and we're trying to nitpick and find things to say about them, I mean, if that's the only thing we can say about them, that's pretty darn good. But that is something. So if Drake May can get on fire with his deep passing game, that may be something that could, make a difference for the Patriots to solve the Seattle defense. But again, like I say, I love comparing the Legion of Boom and that defense that was just, so great on the back end as well as on the front end, but that back end was so special. I don't know if we see that yet with the Seahawks.
Boom, what's your estimation? What do you think is the biggest weakness that the Seahawks have entering Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, I'm actually going to hold up a mirror to our earlier conversation. It's actually Sam Darnold. That he's the biggest weakness for this team right now, in my opinion. Yes, he's had a nice start to the playoffs here. He played great on Sunday against the Rams. There's no denying that. But he didn't have to do much against a really banged up Niners defense. So I'm really seeing Darnold's performance as a one-game microcosm right now compared to really the second half of the year. I crunched some numbers earlier. So last 8 games of the regular season, even though the Seahawks went 7-1, he had an 8-8 touchdown interception ratio. Of course, half of those interceptions coming against the Rams in their first matchup of the regular season. But also 6 fumbles, 7.2 yards per attempt, which was down from 9.9 yards per attempt for the first 9 games of the season when he had a 17-6 touchdown interception ratio. It's going to come down to Darnold protecting the ball, man. I think that's really going to be a key in this game. Not that he's that offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak's going to have a game plan in which he's putting the ball in harm's way per se, but just the normal snaps, the normal throws. Like, is Darnold going to be able to hold up in those spots? I think it has to be a yes if the Seahawks want to win, and that's why he's my biggest weakness.
That's totally fair, but I'm going to add another one here. I think Reek Woolen has to not get a taunting penalty in a key spot. How about that? Like, can his mouth be a weakness? I don't know, but I think I think I saw that Seattle was called for 5 taunting penalties this year, and he was responsible for 3 of them. I'm pretty sure is the stat, which is that's fun. That's fun. Player game. That's it. But listen, man, I like the Seattle defense. I like what they're building there, right? You have good cornerback play. You have a couple of guys in DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams, who you don't want to call them cast-offs because they're still solid players, but guys who Leonard Williams played with the Jets, the Giants. He finds his way in Seattle, kind of a forgotten piece. They're still a very good player. DeMarcus Lawrence played with the Cowboys, had some very good years. Now he's here. You're kind of building a defense of guys who were guys elsewhere now. And you add, of course, Nick Imanwori, combine standout last year, had an excellent season. Just feels like a perfect match for Mike McDonald. So I don't know who the biggest weakness is on this team. I think it's fair to say Darnold because the turnovers is concerning, right? Like, the most turnovers that a quarterback has had entering the Super Bowl since Eli Manning in 2007, the highest total, 20 giveaways, which is, listen, protect the ball, right? Protect the football, take your chances, try and get that tight window throw in there, but don't make any stupid decisions. So I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, I think the way I describe it is good Sam Darnold versus bad Sam Darnold. So I totally agree with what both of you say, because that's when the Seahawks have had trouble. It's and a lot of teams could say that, turnovers, but Sam has definitely had a higher rate than others. So yeah, spot on, no doubt.
All right, so we talked about the Seahawks weaknesses, but now we got to talk about the Patriots, right? I mean, can look at the offense, and again, Drake Maye's had some fumbling issues throughout the playoffs, but still making the plays when he has to, like you mentioned, JB, and now we're entering Super Bowl. The stakes are much higher now. The score can turn, a game can turn on just one missed fumble, one lost fumble. We know that, right? So what do you think, JB? What's the biggest weakness that the Patriots have entering Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, I think you talk about the supporting cast for Drake May, and it starts with the offensive line. And I mean, they're here, they're in the Super Bowl. So, kudos to them for doing that, because I think in every one of these playoff matchups, and Boom, you could speak to this better than I can, I'm sure, but they went into the game with people looking at the offensive line and the matchup against whatever defense they were playing, the Chargers, the Houston Texans, who were the greatest defense ever, right? And the Denver Broncos, who had this great defense. And that has been the question from week to week. So now you're talking about the Seattle Seahawks. And you mentioned DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah, that's going to be where this game could be won. Remember last year's Super Bowl, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, dominated in the trenches and were able to win that game. And oh, by the way, isn't there a guy from the from the Patriots uh, on New England's from the Eagles on New England's defense? But all that to say, New England's offensive line, I think that's where you look at and say, okay, is this the weakness? So we'll see.
Yep. And I think Campbell, left tackle, JB, he's had problems all season with elite pass rushers, and this is where one of those things where, I know we don't talk about this, this is the deeper cut, but when you talk about arm length for tackles, like this is what we're talking about, right? Will Campbell came out of LSU. People were saying, oh, well, he had shorter arms, but his tape was pretty good, right? Regardless, you're playing in the SEC, you're playing against some elite defenses, so it makes him a safe pick. But you get to the NFL, everybody's a freakish athlete on the edge, right? And you have trouble with those guys, and he's had trouble in the playoffs against some of the best edge rushers in football. Will Anderson was giving him a hard time in that Texans matchup, so that's definitely one to watch. Boom, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you guys probably had my notes on your screens, because that's exactly what I was thinking there as far as what the Pats' weakness is. Playing next to Campbell, I think we also have to talk about the fact that it's another rookie in left guard, Jared Wilson. So there's just inexperience on that side of the line. We weren't having arm length conversations about Will Campbell earlier in the season, but now that he's faced this string of pass rushers like Joe mentioned, we are. But yeah, for the sake of trying to come up with a different answer here, I'm going to go with the secondary for the Patriots. Yes, Christian Gonzalez, great lockdown guy. Did he get beat against Jared Stidham the other day? Sure did. A couple times. So yeah, Clint Kubiak is going to scheme up some really advantageous situations for Jackson Smith and Njigba. And I think the only defense that could match up in those, positionless situations is JSN's own defense, the Seahawks. So if JSN gets on a linebacker or on a safety, that's a significant advantage for Seattle.
All right, guys. So we talked about the team's weaknesses. We already know their strengths. They're the respective conference championship winners, so we know all about that. We talked about the quarterbacks, but now we got to talk about who's actually going to win this game. So, JB, who you got? Who's going to come out on top in Super Bowl 60? Who's taking home the Lombardi Trophy?
Yeah, I'll take the team that has beast mode, or at least they used to have beast mode. And the favorite, the Seattle Seahawks. I think it'll be a close game. Joe, you talked about it at the top, where this NFL season has been so crazy, so unpredictable, so many wild, finishes from week to week. And I think we really have to expect that this Super Bowl will be no different. It could go either way. So I picked the Seahawks to win this game by a score of maybe 23-17 or 22-20 or something close. But it would not surprise me if Mike Vrabel and those Patriots find a way to win, because it seems like they keep doing it. But for the sake of argument here, I will say Seahawks.
Boom, who you got?
Yeah, I agree with JB. To me, it's a field goal game. Going to come down to the wire. I don't see either team blowing anybody out, but I'm just going to have to go with the strongest unit on the field. That's the Seahawks defense. They have edges to me in the second and third levels of that unit compared to the Patriots. I like the way that defensive line might be able to match up against the Patriots offensive line. So I'm going Seahawks. It's going to be close. I think I have 27-23 already on the books officially. So Seahawks 27, Pats 23. Prep the teal and white confetti in California.
All right, guys. So we talked about the Super Bowl. We talked about predictions best we can, but it's time to toss it to a guy who's known for being able to see in the future himself, and that's Tony Romo. Our colleague Samantha Cardona-Norberg had a chance to sit down with Tony Romo, the former Cowboys quarterback and current CBS color commentator, and here's what he had to say about the big game.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit of football. I am so excited. We got the Super Bowl coming up. Seahawks, Patriots. Tony, was this like an expected matchup? Because I feel like not everybody was really thinking that this was going to be Super Bowl 60 this year.
You totally had this, Matt, didn't you? Didn't you say it was going to be the Patriots versus the Seahawks?
No, nothing.
I don't think nobody would have probably predicted this before the season. As the season developed, it got more apparent that this had a possibility. But I would say it was as wide open at the start of the playoffs as I've seen it. And coming down to the finish of the season, it was unbelievable how each game really mattered so much, because it's like, this is just, it comes down to a field goal, it comes down to a throw, it comes down to a pass interference call. There were so many things, and these teams were so close. There were two constants I saw throughout, the teams getting into the playoffs and then moving along. It was defense and coaching were the two biggest that were kind of the difference makers, I call it, to get to this point. And you see both these teams that are playing in the Super Bowl have that. And I think you see they're great on defense, they have great coaching, great situational awareness, and then they have quarterbacks, that have had outstanding seasons. So it's not rocket science. That's why they're here, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of quarterbacks, I want to talk about Sam Darnold a little bit, because he's this first quarterback in this 2018 class. And it's not the first time he's been to the Super Bowl either. He was there with the 49ers as a backup. Did you expect that Sam Darnold, out of that class with Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson, he would be the first one to get to the Super Bowl?
It's funny you asked that question, because I actually was really high on Sam coming out.
Okay.
And no, I thought probably Josh would get there initially after you saw part of the progression take place. But it just shows you how talented and gifted this draft class is.
Yeah.
And the depth in it at the quarterback position. And Sam is just a testament to having resolve and just continuing to work and improve. And sometimes it just takes you to get into an environment that allows you to accentuate your strengths. And I think that's what happened. I mean, you go, all of a sudden, you find Baker Mayfield the same way. A change of scenery, all of a sudden, you get with this coach over here. I mean, if you look at a lot of these guys, someone goes with Sean McVay for a year, then goes over here, someone goes with Kyle Shanahan, you go over here for Kevin O'Connell. It's like you learn football a little bit differently. And all of a sudden, you can use your skill set. And that allows you then to go to a new home and flourish. And we've seen that play out that way.
Yeah, your dad was shaking his head. No, did not think Sam Darnold would be out here.
Not for me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, when he was at the Jets, little did we know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He always had the skills, though. I saw you study some of these guys coming out, and I talked to Dad, and he saw the same thing, where it's like he's got great instincts, ability, but you just have to master the game of football, and so much of that is between the ears and understanding it, and sometimes it just takes some people to unlock that, and the coaching staff matters so much. And I think that's why I talked about how apparent it was to see the last 8 teams, how well coached these teams were.
Absolutely. On the other side, we got Drake Maye, young guy, sophomore year, MVP talks.
Amazing, yeah.
I mean, he could get put into a conversation with guys like Ben Roethlisberger and Russell Wilson as sophomore year quarterbacks who've won the Super Bowl. Do you think that he has that in him to make it happen?
He definitely has it in him. I mean, he's here. I mean, he just went on the road at Denver and won. He just beat he just probably went through. I mean, this will be roughly as tough a defensive run that he's had to go through that I can remember in recent years. I mean, other teams have in the past, but to think about him, I mean, he had to go through Houston, Denver, and then he's going to have to go against the Seahawks. I'm like, in the first game, they beat Chargers. So you go Chargers. He has to go through the Chargers defense, Houston's defense, Denver's defense, and the Seahawks. I'm like, this is like 4 of the top 5 or 6 defenses in the NFL. And Drake, you got to go through this gauntlet to win a Super Bowl. You wouldn't think that starting off, but he's shown the affinity to do it, even though there's some turnovers and stuff, but it's a team game. You need help at different times. And I just feel like he's been incredible. I mean, the season he's had, it's been so impressive. His regular season was unbelievable. I mean, MVP candidate in your second year. I mean, this is the makings of a team who's going to be here to stay.
Absolutely. And you had the chance to call that game. You were watching him in the snow and everything. You know, what was that like? I feel like that snow was very unexpected too. No one was really thinking that was going to happen.
I think it actually would have affected the play calling in the game if the coaches would have known. You know, we've talked about that, Dad, just where,
Yep.
you know, maybe you
4th and 1, maybe you kicked a field goal.
if you knew how tough it was going to be as the game was going to go on.
Yeah.
But they knew there was going to be flurries, but I don't think they understood that it's going to be
Heavy flurries.
cold, that type of wind with the snow. It was just very difficult conditions, and so every point was huge. It was paramount to have that. And I thought New England just did a great job situationally, and they protected the football. They understood, and I think they basically, as the second half started going, they were like, listen, we need to call the game this way, shorten the game, and just protect the football. And they almost, I don't want to say they weren't trying to score, you are, but you're also saying just don't give them the ball and eat the clock. And I think we can win this because it'll be challenging.
Yeah, I mean, Vrabel put a lot of chips in on his defense for that game.
He did. You're exactly right.
And I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you ever played against Mike while you were in the NFL. But I know that your careers kind of crossed over each other. Did you ever hear anything through the grapevine about the way that he played or anything like that? I know it's different conferences, but.
Yeah, no, I know Mike, pretty well, and I think it just shows you when you hire the right guy, how it can trickle down through the entire organization. So if you hire a Mike Vrabel, you instantly create a culture. We know that. He's going to go ahead and demand accountability. He's going to get the locker room right. He's going to bring in the right kind of guys. He also understands player development. And so he understands he has to hire a staff to help improve these guys when they're here. So you see Drake Maye's improvement.
Right.
You see all these other, he hires Josh McDaniels. He has the ability, it's almost like you're a CEO when you're the head coach. It's your ability to hire the right people and then their ability to have the people under them improve while they're there. And I think the Patriots do that as well as anyone.
Yeah. Staying in that Patriots vein, the news about Bill Belichick's not going to be making the Hall of Fame as a first ballot. I'd like to hear both of your thoughts on that situation.
It's ridiculous.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
if there's a first ballot Hall of Famer, it's literally him.
Like said, it's 6 like Super Bowls, not enough.
And you know the other part too is he actually loves football. He loves the NFL. He loves the Hall of Fame. He loves it with every ounce of his being. You know, it's just it's disappointing, is what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit more about you broadcasting and the games that you were able to call. In the AFC Championship game, you've kind of had, I mean, you've been doing this since you started, but kind of seeing the future a little bit is something that you're known for. And I would notice while we were watching the game that you said, you know, Stidham really doesn't need a catastrophic turnover here. And then moments later, he's throwing a catastrophic turnover. Yes, yes, of course.
Nice job.
What are you seeing when you're looking at the field and you're analyzing color commentating? What is it that you're seeing?
Well, that game, there's a way to win every football game if you're the coach, the head coach, and the staff, and as a quarterback the same way. It's like, this is how this game needs to be played to beat this team on this day. Mm-hmm. And conditions matter, we know that. And I think it's why I also said they should probably kick that field goal, because I was like, your defense is playing so well, you're at home, getting up 2 scores, it's huge. And it's huge for the quarterback too. It lets you breathe. It lets everyone else be like, okay, I can be a little more aggressive as a defensive play caller because we got a 2-score lead, even if it's a field goal extra. But when it's 7-0, it's still this one play away from them coming right back and tying this game, or even taking a lead if a team were to go for 2. And I just felt in the moment, to your point about, you know, a turnover could be the difference in this game. And I also know that feeling as a quarterback. And so in that moment, I actually think the play call by Sean Payton, if you go back and watch, I think it was Bidet, if I remember correctly, he's coming across the line and could have got out, and it would have been a huge play. This play, when you go back and watch, could have been a 50, 60-yard, 40-yard play, at least 30 in my brain, or it can lose you the football game. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being as big a play as any in the football game and is negative for Denver. But that's how finite the NFL is, especially in a championship game. And in that moment, I just felt like this is going to be that time of the game where a quarterback is a little bit like, okay, I got off to a pretty good start. I'm a little nervous and everything, and I know the other team's going to probably start to bring a little bit something different. They're going to adjust to what you were doing, and here it comes, and it's just that time. And you just feel that sometimes, 'cause I'm like, I know in those moments, and sure enough, it happened. And I never want to see that for any quarterback, but it happened. But it was so close to going the other way too, and people, don't always see that. We didn't have enough time to go through it, but it was. I'm like, wow, look at this. This could have been the ball game for this team or the other teams back in it.
Yeah. When you're play calling, do you ever get a call from your dad saying like, oh, like you should have said this or you should have said that?
I think he trusts my instincts a little bit now, but he does. He's always dad, so he's always got some good stuff. But he's always been so supportive. Mm-hmm. He knows how hard I work at it, and I think he understands that most people, think I'm pretty darn good. So he's good at it.
Mom shines in once in a while.
Mom shines in a lot. Yep, Mom is great. She's my mom. She's the best.
Do you feel Ramiro more stressed out watching him call a game or was watching him play a game?
Play a game.
Yeah.
There's not even. There's an element of danger involved there.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
You want to see your child have success.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. We all do. We're parents. Your chest sticks out just a quarter inch out further. Because it's your kid out there,
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little Cowboys with you. I want to talk a little bit about this new era of his Cowboys with Schottenheimer. Kind of looks like he's taking the reins a little bit, and Jerry might be loosening his grip a little bit. But I know that you know that organization. So, what are you seeing as years are going on and things might be changing?
Well, I think it's the NFL's cyclical, I guess you could say, in some ways, where it's like things come around. I just feel like, Shotty did a great job last year of handling the locker room, the culture. It was going the right direction, and you could see he hired a great, offensive staff for sure. And, sometimes you don't have players, people get hurt, so the defense obviously is turned over. But to me, he really came on and owned it as a head coach, and I feel like that got people excited. And I think the Joneses and Jerry obviously hiring him were, they didn't do something that everyone was expecting, and I think you're going to find out that was a really good choice, because I think they're going to have a great season. I think the future is very bright for how this is going to go, and I think a big reason is who you hire, to run the organization at the head coach, and I think they hit it out of the park. I think Shotty's going to be a really, really great head coach, and he showed an affinity for it last year.
I mean, speaking of hires, I know they just went into the divisional bucket there, grabbed Christian Parker, defensive backs coach from the Eagles, as their defensive coordinator. So obviously the loss of Micah and this new defensive coordinator, what's that looking like now to you?
I think for me, what happens sometimes in the NFL is when we go against a team, we come up with a plan on offense on how to beat this defense. And sometimes you're like, man, this is challenging. Each time they create these challenges as a coaching staff on the other side. Well, you're not going to go get Vic Fangio. He's their defensive coordinator. So you kind of like what they're doing, and they make it troublesome. And that system has given people trouble for a while, and teams have tried to copy it, but it takes a special person to even get in the ballpark that Vic Fangio is. But I think there's a chance that they're trying to grab a little bit of that and create some version of that Philly has created, because that was really a huge difference maker for Philly becoming great again, was the hiring of Vic Fangio.
Right. Well, speaking of hires, the head coaching positions were vacant and they're almost all filled now. But so I kind of want to do a little rapid fire through what we know and have you give a grade, whether it's a letter, number.
I'm probably not going to do the grade, but I will tell you.
How you feel about it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Todd Monken at the Browns.
I think Todd has done an excellent job. When he was with the Ravens, he turned that into one of the more dominant offenses. We saw, Lamar had MVP candidacy last year and could have easily won. Josh Allen won, but that was neck and neck. And some of the stuff they did was incredible. So I expect him to bring his influence and his culture to Cleveland. And, you hope that that gives them the ability to have a sustainable success.
All right, what about John Harbaugh with the Giants?
It's been a crazy year with some of the people who have been let go, and no one more than John Harbaugh. I feel like that was shocking to me. But they're getting an incredible coach who knows all three phases and is a great communicator. He will build that culture. They will be a tough, physical football team, and they'll be built in his image. And now all of a sudden, the Giants, who have not been able to win enough recently, are going to be relevant very soon, I think. I expect them to be in the mix very soon.
All right, what about Mike McCarthy with the Steelers?
I mean, if you look at what Mike has done, I mean, he's won
Yeah.
everywhere he's been. And sometimes people judge it, like with Harbaugh and some of the other ones, on winning a Super Bowl, like Sean McDermott being let go. I mean, these are crazy things to me. But Mike has won everywhere he's been, and I expect him to do the same thing at Pittsburgh.
What a great conversation there with Tony Romo and Samantha. And all of this talk is getting me so excited, not only for Super Bowl 60, but for the commercials, guys, right? I'm super excited for the Super Bowl commercials this year. I mean, you Budweiser, right? The Budweiser frogs. Terry Tate, office linebacker. Where's the beef? Obviously, Mean Joe Green, the Coca-Cola. There's so many iconic Super Bowl commercials. JB, what's your favorite Super Bowl commercial of all time?
Yeah, you bring back some memories. I love the animals and I love those Clydesdales, right? But when you ask me about the favorite, I'm old school, right? And I'm gonna have to go Mean Joe Green. Thanks, Mean Joe. That one just kind of sticks with me and has for decades now. And plus, Mean Joe Green really, as I found out over the years, is really a nice guy. So yeah, I'll go with that one.
Hey,
Boom,
kid,
what's
catch.
your favorite? Hey, kid, catch. Yeah. Hey, Boom, what's your favorite Super Bowl commercial?
Oh man, Terry Tate to me is one of the best. Just like funniest bits, period. Let alone Super Bowl commercials. So another one though that's near and dear to the heart. I always like when we go from commercial world into crossing over to our daily society. So I'm gonna have to go with the Budweiser. Waza.
Yeah, I love it, Boom.
So
Listen,
yeah.
I wouldn't be living the gimmick here if I didn't mention Joe Namath and Farrah Fawcett Noxzema commercial. I mean, this is well before my time, but Super Bowl VII, it aired during halftime, and of course, you know me, I'm named after one Broadway Joe, so there's that. So you, fair listener, can also rate this year's Super Bowl ads from best to worst as a panelist with USA Today Ad Meter. Visit admeter.usatoday.com, see the latest teasers, and then weigh in on the best ads from Super Bowl 60 with previews starting on Wednesday, February 4th.